I'm Carrie Little here with my good friend, the Sheena Baker. What is it? Sheena from Instagram is what everyone else says, but I'm going to say my friend, good friend, everybody's best friend.
Aw, well, thank you. Thank you for
And
having me on.
you really are probably everybody's best friend, even your clients, because when you work with buyers, it's an experience. And we've all watched. And so let me start with a story. So I just came back from a conference, and the Terry Watson, who's very entertaining, he had a conversation with agents around changing the narrative and not just providing value. Would because right now everybody's like, we have to have a value proposition. I'm like, we have stressed out every real estate agent. They don't know what to do. And instantly I thought of you. I'm like, Sheena is what he is talking about. So what Terry Watson challenged everybody to do was to create an experience. And so and I was like, okay, the experience to me was, and he eventually said it, was like Amazon. When you go to Amazon, you can just click a button to buy it. Like you shop, you put it in the cart, you click the button and you buy it.
Yep.
It used to be you have to click like 5 things or 10 things, put in your credit card. Now when you go to the store or anywhere, when you go to pay, at a restaurant, TJ Maxx, Macy's, Nordstrom, whatever, you can just tap with your phone, right? It's an easy
Yeah.
experience.
Yep.
And I'm sure when you're in an arena or you're out at a hotel or we have our favorite airlines, you will always remember the experience. And then when you have a great experience, people refer you. So I figured I'd start with that because that is really what you do. And not just with buyers and sellers, but with the people you meet, you're like a great connector. So what I thought I would do is start with asking you the question, um, why is it always an experience, or how do you make it an experience when you meet when you work with a buyer?
So I would say it shouldn't be just with the buyer. So when you're saying when I meet anyone, the goal is always for me to get to know who you are as a person. And I think start there. I'm not looking for a deal. I'm not looking to make money. It's personally when I usually meet someone is, you know, we're just getting to know each other. And I actually care to get to know that person and not thinking, oh, do they know someone that wants to buy a house or do they know someone that wants to sell a house? It has nothing to do with that. That doesn't even cross my mind. So I think that that's what makes it unique because 99% of people I work with, it's just a genuine relationship that started and then business comes later. So to make it an experience, I actually know you so I can craft the experience of buying a house around you. I can talk to things you told me about because we've met or you told me things that were deeper than just, I want 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. I know like why you want this because you're the first person in your home that or your family that's ever bought a home or you divorced and this is the first time you're going to buy a property, since then. So they get deep and that's what makes to us we don't look at it as everybody is the same. Like what can make this whole process special for this person. And then when we celebrate at the end, we know the purpose. We feel just as honored to work with that person because we help them for a reason. So I feel like start with the reason, start with getting to know them, and your experiences craft organically in that sense.
Oh, we could be done talking because you're like, okay. I mean, but there's truth in that because if anyone gets to know you, whether it's a real estate agent, whether it's your clients, everybody eventually becomes your friend. So, and what you said that most real estate agents don't get is you actually get to know people for real. Like you don't just sit with them. And I have watched, I'm like, you have a gift because there are so many of us and I own it. Like I can sit in a room and you've even told me, you're like, Carrie, you got to come outside. Or I could just, I mean, when I get zone focused, I'm
Oh, yeah.
moving, I'm moving fast,
Yeah.
I'm out. Because remember, I would go to events and just go home.
Yep, you did.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yep. But
But
that
you
changed.
literally go ahead.
I said that changed. You hang out now. I mean, I feel like your spirit has grown gosh, nationally now. So definitely. But if that, so I also meet people that don't let me in, initially. So I'm like, I get it. Like everybody's not an open person. I'm more open. So those folks, it just might take a little bit while to get to know me. I had a person I've known her now for a couple of years through a friend, and she just said, "Wow, we hung out one night." She's like, "I felt like tonight I finally got to like really understand who you are." And I'm like, okay. So I don't know if people just think social media, you see these pictures or fancy things. It's like at the end of the day, when you get to know a person and hang out, we're all human. This is what I do for a living, whatever they do for a living, it's our profession. And you trust me enough to do my profession, I'm gonna do a really good job because I take that serious. So, but at the end of the day, when the business is over, I still am a human being. I still love people. I still love life. I do believe, that good karma, goes around, comes around. So you just want to do good in this universe. So that's my core beliefs. And I think it just plays out with people that I meet. And so the referrals come from that because it's just always good energy. We're going to go above and beyond, especially because you know me personally too now. So if I like flop on this, you're telling all the people that, like, I know you had a good experience with Sheena, but I didn't. Like, no, like my team, we're going to do our best not to miss.
And so let's talk about, there's so many things that you do that all of us I'm exhausted thinking about it. Let's talk about we said, going outside, like literally it is just easy for you to have a conversation with people you haven't known or people you haven't met. But one thing you do well is you do show up, whether it's okay, hey, someone calls, you show up to the baby shower, to the wedding, you show up to the kid's birthday party, you do those things. But what I've watched is you show up, and I'm going to say network, although it's probably really not that for you, but you will go out and connect with people in the city you live in at night.
Everyone's not rushing if it's at night. So I like at night.
I should take that down. Everybody's not rushing.
Like, think about it. You meet for coffee or for lunch. Like, if you meet me for coffee and lunch, you want it to be like anything of substance. I'm watching the clock. So if it's later in the like late afternoon or evening, that's when networking is deeper relationships because you're not running home unless you have kids or something like that. But if you're like your day has ended, you got a little time, you're like more relaxed. Like for me, that's just what's worked for me.
Yeah, because then you get to know people. Because there's truth in, I'll have someone send me a text, "Hey, Carrie, can you meet for coffee?" I'm like, if you want to meet for coffee, we are meeting before 8 a.m. And I'm like, we got 30 minutes.
Yep, you're darn out. So I'm like, it's not even genuine if you're trying to get to know people. So I'm like, if you take the business aside, agents that are trying to meet and network and meet people and get to know people, think of it in that way. If I'm going to get to know someone, it's not over a 15-minute coffee. Like, you're not going to even break the surface of getting to know a person in that quick of an instance. So that's why it's never worked for me. Now, people who do the coffee dates, maybe it works for them, but it's just not enough time. So usually bigger events, if it's, a bunch of people there, you can talk for a little bit and move on, meet someone else and do those type of things and actually keep showing up over time. It starts to, oh my God, I know that person. Hey, Carrie, I saw you at the last event. How's Mark? How's, Noah? Like they get to start to ask you questions about you as opposed to just, how's the real estate market? Like you get tired of hearing that all the time too. I'm like, I'm human. Like I do I'm just more than a machine of real estate. So also my friends will say, quit asking her about real estate. Just let her come hang out. And so that'll let me just come hang out. But it is what it is at this point. When you walk in the room, someone's going to ask you about real estate if they know that's what you do. So I don't care. I'll talk about it, but sometimes no one wants to talk about it. We just want to meet, have fun, and 2 months later, you get a client like, hey, I was I got invited to my neighbor's daughter's birthday. I just went, nothing of it, and she was turning 16. A week later, I get
You're coming with presents, gifts.
Yeah. Oh, of course I came with gifts. So a week later, though, I met the brother-in-law that was there. Emailed and said, hey, so crazy that I met you. Actually need a realtor. I'm going to be selling my house. And he just signed a listing agreement yesterday. So like that, I didn't go for business. They them what I did for a living. When I was like, oh, this is Sheena, she does real estate. They said it. I didn't say anything. I just went as a neighbor, and then I get a client from it. So that is how I show up in the room. I just show up. I'm not looking for business. That will come later if you get to know people.
And we won't dive into your whole marketing strategy, but I'll say most real estate agents do typically generate business from the people they already know, or in your case, just showing up at the neighbor's daughter's birthday. And then organically you received a lead from it, but you didn't go in with your business card saying, hey, I'm a realtor, I'm a realtor, I'm a realtor. It's just literally truly getting to know people.
Yep. And I felt like I've invited this neighbor to my home multiple times. And then this is the time they said, we never have anything, like, so you have to come. And I was like, I will make sure I'm there. So I went, not even thinking about business. So yeah, that to me, that's how I get a lot of my business, but I never thought of going into business as a realtor, that would be a way to get business. Now it's just organically happening. So if someone asks me how I get business, I can tell you a lot of it is just going outside, like for me, and then the past clients, social media, because you have to be relevant on social media for, they're going to Google you for proof of who you are. So we do, even though I know some people don't like social media, but we have to keep our social going, just so make sure everybody keeps seeing us and knowing that we're out actually doing business.
Because I'm convinced if I could just get you to do one video a day, you double your views, because people, they do want to hear from you.
I just don't know what they want to talk about. And I think after this is year 18, I'm like, what else do they want to know from me? But I guess you're always getting new followers. I don't know. So I think I just, in my head, I'm like, is life that interesting? You want to hear from me?
Well, they do want to hear from you. And I'll say, because even when I was, Nicole Richardson, your makeup artist, I remember, and she was like, people really do want to know the ins and outs of owning her own salon. Yeah. And so people really do want to know the ins and outs of being a real estate agent, and we have even the National Association of Realtors had a day in the life of a realtor. Illinois Realtors did it. But the truth is it's more than just you networking, and then the entire process of working with a client. People do think, because if I were to sum up your client, I could see that, you have a new listing, it's under contract, and then it's sold. That is the story on social media, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People don't see you, they don't know how you work, right? They don't know when you start working. They don't know when you end your day. They don't know that maybe tonight you're not going out because you have to, put 3 listings into the multiple listing service. They don't know if you're putting out fires, if you're working with attorneys. They don't know if you're they might know you're at an inspection because you might share. Maybe that's an extra step, but they really don't know what happens behind the scenes. And sometimes people that are like, I want to be in real estate, sometimes I think they need to know, especially with point. The updates that have to be in place by August 17th, 2024. So I think that's people want to hear from you.
That's you make a good point. What we do during the day, but I always thought, like, man, it's a lot. Like, do they really want to see that? You might run from being a realtor.
Because your day is different from my day. I literally, menopause is real though. Listen, let me just, it's late in this, it's a late night talk, right? Like every morning I'm like, oh, I got to get up. But I sit up in bed and I go let the dog out. I grab a cup of coffee and then I sit in bed for like 30 minutes and then I get up. Then on a good day, I go work out, I'll walk, I make breakfast, then I get showered for the day. And I'm literally probably ready before 8:30 a.m. Like dressed and ready to go. But for you,
not my morning. No, it's not. It just depends on the night before, how late I hung out. That'll determine how early I'm up. I'm usually always on, like we're on teams with my team. So I have a team of 2 other agents in the office every day. Then I have another agent as well. So it's 4 of us total. So I'm always usually on about 8:30, 9 o'clock, because that's when they get in at 9. So I always want to be available for any questions that they have. And like, it seems like 9 o'clock is when the phone starts to ring. So like I usually have to be like, my phone usually isn't ringing. They know who to call. Most of our clients will call the team, or a lot of our clients are texters, to be honest. Like a lot of them are at work. So a lot of them start sounding off the text around 9 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, if they want to like, okay, we can go see these properties. So my day starts with that. Questions, clients, whatever we need from the day before. Like usually like right now, I got a list of what they were working on today that I'll get that tomorrow before I go out of town, so we can make sure we're all like wrapped up. So then tomorrow morning we'll be following up on that. Sometimes I wake up to a list from them, like we need you to approve all of these things. And then I go through and I proofread like the listings. Like now I have someone that helps with the listing. So if they do the description, I read it, fix it, send it back to them. So my morning is a lot of just that. So, and I don't have to go anywhere to do that. So I start that way. Then if I have a listing appointment, those are usually after like 1 o'clock. I'm usually out listing appointments. So then I'm usually on the road. And then when I'm back, I'm usually transferring information out of my head to our team to put it in our systems. So I do a lot of data dumping, and then they do a lot of Sheena approve this, doing this, or just updating me. Like I showed these clients today, this is where we stand, and we just do it all over. And then of course the emails to the attorneys, like I have a team, so it's a little different. So they're the ones emailing the attorneys, they're the ones going on the inspections. I'm the one that's reading everything. If I see something that I need questioned, that's what I step in and say, hey, how about this? Or could we do this? Or could we put a rush on this? I usually get in to like light a fire, what my my team will say, but they handle a lot of day to day, and I'm just watching and I'm making sure like this is going the way that I have trained my team to function the same way that I function. So it's a lot of more like high level that I'm doing at this stage in the game.
And if we were to do a talk like this once a week, that's too much. But let's say we came back and had this conversation later. Many real estate agents, when they hear, oh my gosh, she's got a team, you didn't start that way.
Oh no.
Were
No.
you buyer heavy when you truly, came into the industry full time? Were you buyer heavy or listing heavy?
Buyer heavy. It took gosh, I felt like it took, some people say, well, I went full time. I got licensed in 2006. I went full time the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. I don't feel like I started to get more listings until like 2018, 2019, like right before the pandemic. And that is when the listing started. And then during the pandemic, it's crazy because everybody wanted to, you can move up now. You can. Here's your chance. So if you had a starter home, you sell your home, get a bigger home. So then it like, really started to ramp up. So I would say around then, it took a couple of years, but we still are buyer, like a lot of buyer heavy, especially in this market right now with the interest rates being a little bit higher. But I've always been really buyer heavy, and then a lot of my buyers don't want to sell. Like they hold their properties for a while until life changes, marriage, divorce, then that's when so that's why I think it takes a while sometimes. And then now it's starting to become more like people that don't know me, like I'm at the neighbor person or somebody from social media or from doing HGTV. I've gotten calls, like, so that kind of stuff is finally starting, but it's typically somebody that I've sold to that has to sell later, which is why that takes some time.
And that's usually what people see, is they don't see the you living in your car, driving a Tesla, having to charge whenever you charge, and they didn't see all of that, and the fact that you lived in your car, and the only way your friends were going to see you was at the bar.
Yep, because that had to be at night when I was done. Like I remember at one point having 13 buyers at one time, and mentally without a team, and trying to figure out how to show, everybody doesn't want to see in the same day, but it was days where it was like, okay, I have 8 people today to figure out how to get them in all of these houses. Like I'm going to work until I can't show anymore today. Like that's how back to back. And at that time I had Toya, who's my director of ops now. So I could at least have her in the car like, hey, this client called me, can we fit this one in? I don't know how far I am away. And she's mapping in like, yep, you can go meet them for this one, then get back on your trail to go back to that one. Like the logistics of it was just a lot. And that's when I knew eventually, like, I'm going to keep growing. I prayed that I kept growing, but I'm like, I can't do this by myself. So that's where like the team has to come in. Is you're going to end up turning down business if you get so busy that you can't take it all yourself. And it was very hard. to, as you know, as my friend, like for me to finally like accept help. But it was the
I
best
still
thing I
struggle.
did.
There's
Yeah, I
some
mean,
things you haven't
mentally it's
given up
hard.
or you're
Yeah,
getting there.
sometimes I'm like, I'll see the email and I'm like, Sheena, they got it. Like, don't touch it. Like, don't
I,
touch it. Or I see I'm on all the text messages I'm on, so I have to stop myself. Like, they do have it, they're capable, but it's just we're just used to being the ones that did it all. So, but they won't grow and learn if I step in and fix everything. So I'll just call like, hey, on this, can you say this? And they'll go back and like they, that's how we have to work to build that relationship where I trust them to do their job also. But yeah, it took a while. So no, I lived in my car. Like, I mean, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it was to me, that was just the way, and that's what I always wanted to do. You see these top producers, and it's like they actually have to work hard. So if I get to that level, I know I have to work hard. It doesn't just these clients don't fall on your lap and you show them one property and they go under. You could show 20 properties and they not buy nothing, So it's like you just have to keep going and just not thinking dollar, dollar, dollar. You're just doing your job, doing the best at my job, thinking through everything I was showing. Because if you're just taking people out to take them out, that's a waste of their time and me living in my car. So like really being intentional before we go out. What are you really wanting? This is something you really said you wanted, making sure they understand that I was listening. That's a part of the experience, because if I just took you out and you told me 2 baths and this one had one, but you sent it to me, why didn't I look at that before I took you out? Some agents could
we
just
don't
say,
need to
oh,
go see that
yes. And sometimes that's what they would need me to say. And they're like, I didn't even notice that it was one bathroom. I just
because
sent
they're
it
on
to you.
some other website.
Yep. Yeah. So then it's like our job is to tell, and I'm the person that has to like look at this for you. Like I just had someone rushing everybody. We want to see this property. I'm driving. I was like, okay, by the time we got to pull it up, I'm like, it has so many violations, structural issues. And it was like, oh, okay, no, we don't want to see that one. So I'm like, give us a chance to like research the house. Like, don't rush to go see something that's gonna, you're not even interested in if I could have saved you a trip. So like that kind of stuff. So which my team down, they do all of that research before we even go show you if it's FHA approved, all that good stuff. So it's a journey. But it is worth it. If you can get through it, it's worth it.
So I'll ask you a couple more questions, then we'll end. And then I want all of you to tell me if you want me to, keep trying to interview Sheena, or if she needs to start doing some more videos over on Instagram, maybe TikTok, YouTube shorts, somewhere. So you answered something I was going to ask. It is when you create the experience, it's paying attention, learning, and reminding your clients what they said to you. And now that we have changes coming to our industry, and I hate to say changes because we've been using exclusive buyer agency agreements at least since I've been licensed, since 2001. Now they weren't law, they weren't required, and so we could, in Illinois, we could give out the consumer's guide to agency. In Florida, we could use a transactional document to and just help the buyer and the seller and pass papers. Like the industry today is, there was a settlement. All of you can just go to facts.realtor to do your own research. August 17th, 2024, one of the things in the settlement says that the compensation for a buyer's agent has to be taken out of the MLS. And we also have to start using buyer agency agreements. In Illinois, the law is changing January 1st, but you have to use a buyer agency agreement before you show. Knowing that, and knowing that you already have been providing an experience, and I know the brokerage you work for, and then I'll have you tell everybody who you work for in a moment. I know they've already pivoted because bigger brokerages are just faster. Knowing that we must have these exclusive agency agreements, whether it's non-exclusive or exclusive, how are you having these conversations with your buyers? Are you telling them about the changes with the settlement, or is this just a part of your process and it's easier for you to get people to want to work with you?
So for us, it's been like what you said, it's been our law. It's been Bible to us. Before we are working with you, before I am working with you, you have to sign this. So we've been explaining it. So it's nothing new to us. With all the changes coming. Sorry, here comes my loud dog.
We can't hear the dog. We can't hear Story. Hey, Story.
she has a bone, so she's okay. So we've been using the form before now it's required. So it makes it easier for us because we had to explain it anyway. what buyer representation is and how we are representing the client and what that means dollar wise as well. So we've been, or percentage, whatever you're going to do. So we've been explaining that already. The difference for us now is because they're watching the news and they're hearing it, we are explaining what could happen, and here are all the scenarios of what could happen. And so if the seller decides that we are going to verify if they're going to pay or not, but if they decide they're not going to pay and you can't pay, what does that look like? Do you know, so then they are,
people got money, girl. I'm convinced. After the pandemic, I'm trying to, how many people, I mean, there were so many people that bought cash with us that I was like, where y'all been hiding this money?
Yeah, they have cash. Yeah, a lot of people have cash, but some, some don't. Like these first-time home buyers that are like, it's the last dollar they have scraped up to get the down payment and closing cost credits and all of that. So we're explaining what that means, and it's the consumers. It's their say. So they get to decide what do you want to do? You want to view this property because now you're going to have to pay the compensation. So, or here are the options as far as what we can do for the contracts. Now I know all these states have different forms, but with here, how we're explaining those, what we can do when we submit the offer, we can do this, we can use these forms. So I don't want to say what we do here, because of course that could change based on who's watching. But so we have to explain all the different scenarios now, even with the seller. So I just had a seller, same thing, had to explain this with them as well. Like, at the end of the day, when I finished explaining, she said, I just need this house sold. I don't have time to be missing people because if they decide they don't want to see my house because I'm not going to pay a commission. So I think you're going to get some sellers that don't want to play in that right now. Like, so I don't know. I'm curious. This is 18 years later of how this is going to go also. But I just feel like it has to be a conversation and you have to explain. You can't run from it, because the minute that they hear something from someone else that you didn't share, that's when we're going to get back when I first went full time, when people would lose. I remember I used to get a lot of people like, I don't want to work with my agent. They never told me anything about down payment assistance, like things like that were like back in the day. And it was like, why? Even if they didn't qualify, I want you to know everything that's out here. That way you can't say that my realtor didn't tell me. So I would caution folks for trying to skip over or glaze over this. Like, you have to explain it and let them decide, because you do not want them to hear from someone else and they feel like you did not inform them as their realtor.
And you said a whole process, and I don't know if for those that are listening or you're watching the replay, real estate agents, we give people what we want when you should give people what they want. Like, if you did take a moment and you listen to what they're telling you and you should tell them what's available, you might have a buyer that only has 3% down. They might have the closing costs credit, and they might have your compensation. But if they knew that there was a down payment resource, it could actually help them, because now when they close, then they can go buy that furniture, love sake,
Right.
whatever.
Whatever they like. Yep. Yeah. So I'm like, just inform them. Our job is to inform. We are the professionals. We are educators. That's why I am not going to get nervous about this. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. People are coming to us because we are experts, and they know they can trust what I'm saying. Is not for fluff. It's not trust me, the money will come. It's not about that. When you think about the money, nobody, like, I'm not in this, I have to pay my bills. This is a career, like, right? It's not, I don't know why people think these realtors we have to put our
hustle. It's just, we're just out here just, making a little extra money, or just we're hustling everybody. This is your livelihood.
Yep. It's just, if I worked in corporate America, I made a good living in corporate America. I was in HR and payroll for 15 years. You do a great job, you'll get promoted and go further in your career. You could become the CEO, you can become the manager. It's the same thing in real estate or any entrepreneurial job you do. The better you understand your career and your profession, the better you will do. So if you see people that have nice things, they have worked their butts off to get there. So we deserve the commissions. It's nice that I only slept 3 hours and I'm back on the road all over again, and nobody cared because they really wanted their house. Like, so those things, and I love to see the families in them, the sacrifices that you make, the things that I missed with my family throughout these 18 years. That's the thing that you're right, we don't talk about. So when you say to compensate us, when I know that somebody is going to be treated unfairly on the deal, but because they had an agent, we are the reason why they didn't get taken advantage of. That is why we're here. We're here to protect the consumer. And if that agent is not doing that, then you have the wrong agent.
So yeah, let's end with this. Tell us your story about your first home purchase.
Oh,
Because this I think is the reality of real estate. You had an agent, but how old were you when you purchased?
19. Yeah, I'm 42 now. So yeah, 19. It's 19 years old. And actually, I don't even know how I got that agent. I probably just, I don't know. I don't even, did we have Google back then?
Not,
Like,
yeah, yes and no, but you don't remember how you got your agent. You should think about that.
I do now. I have to think about that. Or someone told me about her, I'm sure at work. I'm sure someone referred her to me. I'm sure it was a referral because that's just how I roll. So it had to be somebody refer her that I worked with or something. And I moved a lot as a child. So I had went to 3 different high schools. I would have went to 4. I drove an hour to school every day my senior year of high school. By the time I was done with school, I was just sick of moving. So from 7th grade to my senior year, we moved every single year. So I just knew I wanted stability, which sounds crazy at 19, but I did. And so I started working a job. I was making good living at 19. I was making more than some adults at the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy a house. And I would drive down the expressway and I kept seeing new construction homes in Aurora. I knew nobody in Aurora back then. Everyone thinks that I'm from Aurora. So I saw the sign and I told my sister, let's go out there and look. And it was new construction. I think they were starting at like 115 or something crazy back then. And I bought a house, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, attached garage. I had backyard. Like, I thought I was like doing it. I was first person, like all my friends with a house. So after that, a realtor in the neighborhood was farming. And she kept sending like farming, farming, farming. And I was thinking about selling my house at one point, and I just met with her to talk about the numbers. She said, "You would be a great realtor." That is how I ended up. I was like, you know what? And I was like, I think I probably would enjoy this. Everybody kept asking me about houses after that, and I kept giving them to that realtor that I worked with. And I was like, why don't I work with my family and friends like part time and do it on the side? Side. Little did I know, like the more you go, it's hard to do it on the side. So I had to go full time. So that's just a little of the story.
Yeah, there's so much more. Every real estate agent has a story, but I figured I would end on that for this reason, that whether you're, a buyer, whether you are a real estate agent, the value of that agent helping you get into the property sums up why you need a realtor. So Sheena, tell people where they can find you on social media, and then tell us who you work for.
So I work for Keller Williams Innovate in Aurora. On social media, I'm on Instagram as Sheena Sales. It's SELLS at the end. Facebook, Sheena Baker or Sheena Baker. I think we're Sheena Baker Group on Facebook, the Sheena Baker Group on Facebook. Those are probably the most that are playing. Our Instagram for the team is the Sheena Baker Group also. But if you find Sheena Sales, you'll see it tagged back to the page. I'm on LinkedIn pretty much everywhere, but where I'm on the most is probably Instagram.
Well, thank you. So, everybody, I am Carrie Little, the designated managing broker of Caremark Realty in Illinois and in Florida. I can be found everywhere as Carrie Joe Little. Thank you so much, Sheena, for joining me today. And for all of you, if you would like to hear more from Sheena, blow up her DMs or type in the feed.
It'd be your own friends. Thank you, Carrie.